From ordinary beginnings to extraordinary heights, a journey of perseverance, courage, innovation, discipline, and impact, following dreams, overcoming failures, embracing growth, inspiring others, and building a lasting legacy of success. The first step: I was born in an ordinary city, in an ordinary family, where no one had great wealth or powerful connections, but from a young age I loved listening to stories about people who changed the world, like Steve Jobs and Elon Musk, and I dreamed of becoming someone significant one day. At school I was not the best student, yet I always asked many questions and tried to understand more than what was written in textbooks. One day I came across the story of Apple and I was amazed at how a simple idea could grow into something extraordinary. Later I learned about Tesla and realized that innovation is born where people are not afraid to take risks. That was the moment when I first truly understood that success is not an accident but the result of daily effort, discipline, and belief in yourself. I started writing my goals in an old notebook, planning months ahead, analyzing my weaknesses and turning them into strengths. I began waking up earlier than usual, reading books about self-development and entrepreneurship, watching conference speeches and imagining myself among those who create the future. Even though doubts and laughter sometimes surrounded me and not everyone understood my ambitions, inside me there was a quiet certainty that this was only the beginning of my journey. I chose to work on myself more than on impressing others. I learned to treat mistakes as lessons and failures as necessary steps toward growth, and while many people were only dreaming about change, I decided to act, even without guarantees, even with fear, even without knowing exactly where this path would lead me. I promised myself that I would never stop, because that decision became the true starting point of my success. Building discipline. After making that promise to myself, I realized that motivation alone was not enough, because motivation fades but discipline stays. I began creating strict daily routines and followed them no matter how I felt. I studied the habits of successful people like Warren Buffett and Oprah Winfrey, and I noticed that behind every achievement there were years of consistent effort, not luck. I limited distractions, spent less time on entertainment, and invested more time in learning valuable skills. Sometimes it was exhausting and lonely, sometimes I questioned whether the sacrifice was worth it, but every small improvement gave me confidence. I started setting measurable goals and tracking my progress. I failed many times and faced rejection, yet each failure taught me resilience and patience. I understood that growth happens outside the comfort zone, so I began volunteering for challenging projects and taking responsibilities others avoided. Slowly people started noticing my reliability and determination. Opportunities did not appear overnight, but when they came I was ready because I had prepared in silence. I learned that success is built in moments when no one is watching, in early mornings and late nights, in choices that seem small but shape your future. And with each disciplined day I felt myself becoming stronger, more focused, and closer to the person I once imagined. I no longer waited for the perfect moment, because I realized that the perfect moment is created by action, and step by step my confidence grew, not from praise but from proof that I could rely on myself, and that realization changed everything. Facing failure. As my ambitions grew, so did the challenges, and soon I encountered my first serious failure. A project I had invested months of effort into collapsed unexpectedly, and for a moment I felt completely defeated. I remembered stories about Bill Gates and how even he faced setbacks before building Microsoft into a global giant. And I realized that failure is not the opposite of success but a part of it. Instead of blaming circumstances or other people, I chose to analyze my mistakes carefully. I reviewed every decision, every risk, every assumption I had made, and although it was painful to admit where I was wrong, it became one of the most valuable lessons of my life. I understood that pride can block progress, but honesty with yourself opens new doors. I rebuilt my plan from the ground up, this time stronger and smarter. I sought advice from mentors, listened more than I spoke, and began improving not only my technical skills but also my leadership and communication abilities. There were days when doubt returned and whispered that maybe I was not good enough, yet each time I reminded myself why I had started. I learned to separate my identity from my results, because one failure did not define who I was, it only refined who I was becoming. Slowly I regained momentum, and with it came a deeper confidence, not the loud confidence of ego, but the quiet confidence of experience. I no longer feared failure the way I once did, because I knew that every setback was shaping me into someone more resilient, more strategic, and more prepared for the opportunities ahead, and that understanding transformed fear into fuel for growth. Expanding my vision. After learning to face failure without fear, I began thinking bigger than ever before. I realized that small goals create small results, and if I truly wanted to become successful I had to expand my vision beyond what felt comfortable. I started studying global leaders like Jeff Bezos, who built Amazon from a simple online bookstore into a worldwide empire, and I became fascinated by the power of long-term thinking. I understood that real success is not about quick wins but about building something that lasts, so I shifted my focus from short-term rewards to sustainable growth. I began networking with people who inspired me and challenged my thinking. I attended conferences, joined professional communities, and surrounded myself with individuals who were not afraid to dream big. At first I felt intimidated, as if I did not belong in rooms filled with ambitious and experienced people, but instead of shrinking I decided to grow into that space. I asked thoughtful questions, listened carefully, and shared my ideas with confidence. Gradually I noticed that my mindset was changing. I stopped seeing limits and started seeing possibilities. I learned to evaluate risks strategically rather than emotionally, and I became more comfortable making bold decisions, even when the outcome was uncertain. With every new connection and every new lesson my world expanded. I was no longer thinking only about personal success but about impact, about creating value, about building something meaningful that could influence others. And in that period I realized that success is not just about reaching the top, it is about lifting others as you climb, and that realization gave my journey a deeper purpose and a stronger direction. Taking the leap, as my vision grew clearer and my confidence strengthened, I understood that preparation alone was no longer enough. There comes a moment when thinking must turn into bold action, and for me that moment arrived when I decided to launch my own serious project. It was risky and uncertain, and many people advised me to choose a safer path. But I remembered how Mark Zuckerberg once took a similar leap when building Facebook, and how belief in an idea can be stronger than fear of failure. I invested my savings, my time, and all my energy into this new venture. The first weeks were chaotic and overwhelming. I had to solve problems I had never faced before, manage responsibilities that seemed too heavy, and make decisions that carried real consequences. There were sleepless nights filled with doubt, but also mornings filled with determination. I learned to trust my instincts while still relying on data and strategy. I built a small but dedicated team, choosing people not only for their skills but for their mindset and integrity. Together we worked through obstacles that at times felt impossible, yet every challenge forced us to become more creative and more united. Progress was slow at first, results did not appear immediately, but I reminded myself that strong foundations take time to build. I focused on delivering real value instead of chasing quick recognition. I listened carefully to feedback and continuously improved our product and our process, and step by step we began to see signs of growth, small victories that proved we were moving in the right direction. That leap of faith changed me completely, because it showed me that courage is not the absence of fear but the decision to move forward despite it, and in choosing action over comfort I crossed a line that separated dreamers from doers, bringing me closer than ever to true success. Leading through challenges, as the project began to grow, new responsibilities emerged and the pressure intensified. Success at an early stage did not make things easier, it made them more complex. I was no longer responsible only for my own progress but for the future of my team and the trust of our clients. I studied leaders like Satya Nadella and how he transformed Microsoft by focusing on culture and innovation, and I realized that true leadership is not about control but about vision and empathy. There were moments when unexpected crises tested us, financial pressure, strong competitors, internal disagreements, and each challenge demanded calm decisions instead of emotional reactions. I learned to communicate openly, to admit when I was wrong, and to encourage solutions instead of blame. Sometimes I had to make difficult choices that were not popular but necessary for long-term stability. Those decisions taught me that leadership requires courage and accountability. I also discovered the importance of adaptability, because markets change, trends evolve, and only those who learn quickly can survive. Instead of fearing competition I studied it, instead of resisting change I anticipated it. I invested in continuous learning and encouraged my team to do the same. Slowly our resilience became our advantage. Setbacks no longer stopped us, they strengthened us, and with every obstacle we overcame together our unity grew stronger. I began to understand that success is not a single achievement but a continuous process of growth, responsibility, and self-improvement, and through leading others I was also leading myself to a higher level of discipline, awareness, and purpose. The breakthrough moment, after years of steady growth and relentless effort, the moment finally arrived when our work began to gain serious recognition. What once felt like a distant dream was now becoming reality. A major opportunity opened when we secured a partnership that expanded our reach beyond anything we had imagined. I thought about stories of innovators like Richard Branson who turned bold ideas into global brands such as Virgin Group, and I realized that breakthrough moments are earned long before they become visible. The recognition did not come from luck but from years of preparation, sacrifice, and persistence. Our client base grew rapidly, revenue increased, and people who once doubted my vision began to acknowledge the results. Yet instead of feeling satisfied I felt a deeper sense of responsibility, because success at a higher level demands higher standards. Media attention and public praise were exciting but also distracting, and I had to remind myself to stay Grounded and focused on our mission, I made it a priority to protect our company culture and values, ensuring that growth did not compromise integrity. There were new negotiations, larger contracts, and more complex strategies, and every decision now carried greater impact. I learned to balance ambition with patience, confidence with humility, and speed with strategy. This breakthrough was not the finish line but the beginning of a new chapter, one where expectations were higher and competition stronger, yet I felt ready because the struggles of the past had prepared me for this stage, and standing at that milestone I understood something powerful. Success is not about a single big win, it is about becoming the kind of person who can handle bigger opportunities when they arrive. Staying grounded, as success became more visible and opportunities multiplied, I faced a new kind of challenge, staying true to myself while the world around me was changing. Recognition can quietly influence your mindset, and I understood that many people lose their direction at the peak of their rise. I reflected on leaders like Howard Schultz who built Starbucks not only as a business but as a brand centered on values and community, and I realized that long-term success depends on character as much as strategy. I made time to reconnect with the habits that shaped me in the beginning: early mornings, continuous learning, honest self-reflection. I stayed close to mentors and surrounded myself with people who were not afraid to challenge me, rather than those who simply agreed with everything I said. I focused on gratitude, remembering the days when progress felt slow and uncertain. This perspective protected me from arrogance and kept my decisions clear. I also invested more in developing my team, creating opportunities for them to grow and lead, because I understood that sustainable success is built collectively, not individually. There were temptations to expand too quickly or chase trends that promised fast rewards, but I chose stability and long-term value over short-term excitement. I learned to say no to opportunities that did not align with our mission, even if they seemed profitable, and that discipline strengthened our foundation. Through this stage I discovered that success is not only about reaching higher levels, it is about maintaining balance while you are there, and by staying grounded I ensured that growth would continue without losing the principles that started it all. Mastering resilience. Even as our company grew and recognition solidified, new challenges tested my endurance and mindset. Unexpected market shifts, sudden competition, and internal conflicts forced me to adapt quickly. I remembered stories of Oprah Winfrey who overcame extreme personal and professional setbacks to build a lasting legacy, and I realized that resilience is the cornerstone of sustained success. I began to train myself to respond to setbacks with calm and clarity rather than panic or frustration. I developed systems for problem solving, contingency planning, and emotional regulation. I also learned the importance of mental and physical health, dedicating time to exercise, reflection, and rest. Because I understood that resilience is not just a mindset but a lifestyle, I encouraged my team to adopt the same approach, teaching them that challenges are opportunities to innovate. That pressure can create growth if approached constructively. There were days when it felt like everything was falling apart, but instead of giving in to fear, I focused on what could be controlled and let go of what could not. Each recovery strengthened our confidence, each problem solved became a testament to our perseverance. Slowly I realized that resilience is not just surviving difficulties, it is using them as a catalyst to become stronger, wiser, and more capable. And this ability to stay steady under pressure became one of my greatest assets, allowing me to continue moving forward no matter how unpredictable the journey became. Embracing innovation. As I grew more confident in my leadership and resilience, I realized that staying successful required constant innovation. I studied pioneers like Elon Musk and how SpaceX continually pushed boundaries in technology and vision, and I understood that resting on past achievements leads to stagnation. I encouraged my team to experiment, to challenge old processes, and to propose ideas that seemed risky or unconventional. Sometimes these experiments failed, but every failure brought valuable insights. I also invested in learning emerging technologies, market trends, and new strategies to stay ahead. I made creativity part of our culture, celebrating curiosity as much as results. We developed products and solutions that were not just competitive but transformative. I learned that true innovation often comes from combining insights from different fields, asking questions that no one else is asking, and connecting dots that seem unrelated. This mindset changed the way I approached challenges. I stopped seeing obstacles as limits and started seeing them as opportunities to create something unique. With every innovative step, our impact grew, and I realized that success is not just measured by what you achieve but by the new possibilities you create for yourself and others. Embracing innovation became not just a strategy but a philosophy that kept my journey dynamic, exciting, and forward-moving. Building influence. As our innovations gained attention, I realized that success also requires influence, the ability to inspire, connect, and lead beyond your immediate circle. I studied figures like Richard Branson and how Virgin Group leveraged reputation and relationships to create opportunities. I focused on sharing my vision openly and authentically, speaking at events, mentoring others, and writing about lessons learned. I discovered that influence grows when you provide value and show integrity rather than seeking recognition. My network expanded globally as I connected with people who shared my values and could challenge my thinking. I also used influence to create partnerships that multiplied our impact. Each collaboration taught me the importance of listening, empathy, and mutual respect. I learned that true influence is not about authority or control but about inspiring confidence and action in others. As I built this network and reputation, I noticed doors opening that would have been inaccessible alone, yet I remained careful to maintain authenticity and humility. Influence became a tool not for personal gain but for amplifying ideas, supporting others, and driving meaningful change. And through this I realized that the higher your influence, the greater your responsibility to act wisely and ethically, and this understanding shaped my decisions and the legacy I wanted to leave. Giving back. As I reached higher levels of success, I realized that true fulfillment comes not only from achievement but from contribution. I looked at leaders like Bill Gates and how he used Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to impact millions of lives, and I understood that wealth, knowledge, and influence are most meaningful when shared. I began mentoring young entrepreneurs, volunteering my time, and supporting initiatives that aligned with my values. Giving back taught me lessons I could never learn from profit alone. It reminded me of the struggles I faced and the people who helped me along the way. I established programs within my company to encourage social responsibility and community impact. I noticed that helping others also strengthened my team, my network, and even my own creativity. It created a sense of purpose that fueled continued growth. I realized that legacy is built through positive impact on others, not just personal accomplishments. By integrating giving back into my life, I felt more grounded, more motivated, and more connected to the world beyond business. This chapter of my journey taught me that success multiplies when it is shared, and that true leaders are those who lift others as they climb. Giving back became both a responsibility and a source of joy, reminding me that the journey of success is meaningful only when it contributes to something bigger than oneself. Mastering focus. As my ventures expanded and responsibilities multiplied, I realized that one of the greatest challenges of success is maintaining focus. Distractions, endless opportunities, and competing priorities can easily dilute energy and attention. I studied figures like Warren Buffett and how he achieved extraordinary results by focusing deeply on what truly mattered. I began to eliminate unnecessary commitments, delegate tasks strategically, and dedicate blocks of uninterrupted time to high-impact work. I trained myself to prioritize ruthlessly, distinguishing between urgent demands and important goals. I also practiced mindfulness and reflection to keep clarity amidst chaos. Technology and constant communication could easily fragment attention, so I created routines that protected my focus while still allowing collaboration and creativity. I noticed that the more disciplined my attention, the faster I achieved meaningful progress. I also realized that focus is not just about work, but about aligning all aspects of life, health, relationships, learning toward the vision I had set for myself. As I mastered focus, decisions became easier, productivity multiplied, and stress decreased. This chapter taught me that no strategy, no talent, and no opportunity can substitute for sustained attention, and by honing my ability to focus, I was able to accelerate growth, achieve deeper results, and continue building the life and impact I envisioned. Celebrating small wins. Even as I pursued larger goals and ambitious visions, I learned the importance of acknowledging progress along the way. I realized that focusing only on the final destination can lead to burnout and frustration. I studied leaders like Sheryl Sandberg who emphasized the value of incremental progress and reflection in sustaining motivation. I began keeping a journal of achievements, big and small, from completing a challenging project to solving a tough problem with my team. Celebrating these wins reinforced momentum, boosted morale, and reminded me that growth is a series of steps, not a single leap. I also learned to share these moments with my team, creating a culture where effort and progress were recognized, not just results. This practice strengthened relationships, inspired creativity, and encouraged persistence. I noticed that each small win built confidence and resilience, making larger challenges feel attainable. Over time I realized that success is not only about grand milestones but about consistently moving forward and appreciating the journey. By celebrating small wins I kept my motivation alive, my vision clear, and my energy high, and this mindset became a secret weapon that carried me through long stretches of hard work toward the bigger achievements that awaited. Reflecting on the journey, looking back on the years of effort, struggle, and growth, I realized that becoming successful was not about luck, shortcuts, or sudden breakthroughs. It was about consistent action, learning from failures, embracing risks, and constantly improving. I thought about all the mentors, books, leaders like Oprah Winfrey, Elon Musk, and figures who inspired me, and how their examples shaped my mindset and decisions. I saw how discipline, resilience, focus, innovation, influence, giving back, and celebrating progress had woven together into a path that carried me from uncertainty to achievement. I recognized that success is not a fixed destination but a continuous journey, one that demands growth, reflection, and adaptation. I felt gratitude for the obstacles that taught me lessons, for the failures that strengthened me, and for the opportunities that tested my courage. I understood that each chapter of my story, from taking the first step to leading, innovating, and giving back, was essential to becoming the person I am today. And as I looked ahead, I knew the journey was far from over, because true success is measured not by the heights reached alone but by the wisdom gained, the lives touched, and the legacy built along the way. And with this clarity, I embraced the future with confidence, curiosity, and unwavering determination, knowing that every new challenge is another chance to grow and make an impact.